Good evening, members, officers, visitors and members of the public. My name is Andy Booth and I shall be the chairman for this committee this evening. The meeting may be recorded and proceedings will be conducted in accordance with the Council's constitution, including procedural rules which are available on the Council's website. Agenda item number 1, emergency evacuation procedure. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if you do hear the bell, treat it as if it is a real event, please. Please use one of the 2 exits from this chamber, to the left or to the right. Do not use the lifts in any circumstances. Make your way down the staircases and into the car park, where you will be guided and advised by democratic officers this evening. Does anybody need assistance getting out of the building today? No. Members must consider each application and everything that is said in the meeting concerning the application to make their decision based solely on their planning judgment of the information available to them. Following the decision by members, delegated authority is given to the planning officer to issue the decision notice. Planning permission is not granted or refused until that notice of the decision has been issued. Any member of the council who is not a member of the planning committee may attend as a visiting member and may speak, having given prior notification. Such visiting members may of course include ward members, and whilst visiting members can speak on an application, they are not permitted to vote. Any member acting as a substitute on the planning committee must have undertaken appropriate training before doing so. Members must remain in the meeting for the whole time that each item is being debated and should not vote on that item unless they have done so. So this evening we have Planning Officer Paul Gregory, we have Paul Oates, Planning Consultant, we have Planning Manager Ian Harrison and Head of Place Joanne Johnson. Democratic Services Officer tonight is Kelly McKenzie. Do we have any apologies for absence, please, Kelly?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillors Simon Clark, Kieran Golding and Julian Speed. Thank you. Thank
you very much. Agenda item 3, they are the minutes of the meeting held in this chamber on Thursday the 6th of November. Are members happy for me to sign them as a true record of that meeting? Thank you very much. I'll do so during the meeting. Agenda item 4. Do any members of the committee have a disclosable pecuniary interest or a disclosable non-pecuniary interest that they would like to identify? Councillor Bonney.
Thank you. On item, I think it's 9 on the actual agenda, Central Park Stadium, I chair the Property and Regeneration Committee, and as that is a Swell-owned asset, I will leave the room as a matter of transparency. Thank
you very much. I would like to remind the meeting that where it is possible that a fair-minded and an informed observer, having considered the facts, would conclude that there was a real possibility that a member might be predetermined or biased on any agenda item, the member should declare the possibility and then leave the room whilst that item is considered. To be clear. We now move on to Part B reports for the Planning Committee to decide. So the first item we have speakers this evening, so I'm going to run in that order. So just to make that clear, we are hearing 2-1, 2-3 and then 2-4 in that order. This is 25-501147 REM, Phase 2F, Wises Lane, Borden, Mike Echo 10, 1 Golf Delta. Can I have the officer's update, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The only update is that Kent Police have advised us that they have no further comments to what they made before. We have a presentation available if you'd like it.
Thank you very much. If we can have the presentation, and then I'll get the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, as you've heard, this application relates to Phase 2F of Land Wises Lane, which I know you're all familiar with, and it was at the last committee, so you're reasonably familiar. The site is to the southwest of Sittingbourne and to the north of Borden. The application that's before us tonight relates to this 2 areas of green, light and dark green, at the southern part of the site. It's for open space and landscaping and infrastructure, and follows a previous reserved matters application for earthworks related to the ground levels. That's the parcel that we're referring to. A public right-of-way defines the majority of the northern part of the site along here and continues through in the westerly direction. There's a further public right-of-way that leads down southwards towards Borden. The application, like I say, is for the landscaping, including a thick buffer along the southern boundary of the site. There's an area for moths in this purple area, which is part of the ecology provisions on the site to mitigate impacts. The proposal is for a rugby training pitch, which is this area here, a neighbourhood equipped area of play, or NEEP, in that area there, 2 kickabout pitches in this area, and as I said, the footpaths run through, and there's other ancillary footpaths and planting. Looking at it in a more detailed plan, that's the western half, and that's the eastern half. That's the neighbourhood equipped area of play, which is required to be provided under the terms of the Section 106 agreement that related to the original permission. The proposal is considered acceptable and therefore it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ian. Okay, can I call please Parish Councillor Mr Clive Sims, representing Borden Parish Council. Good evening, Councillor. If you'd like to take this chair, there is a console in front of you, 2 buttons. The one on the left will illuminate your microphone as soon as you're ready and comfortable, and press the button, your 3 minutes will start. Thank you. Thank you.
From the outset, I wish to point out that any claim made by the developer that agreement has been reached with Borden Parish Council by way of the Wises Lane Monitoring Group is a misrepresentation of the facts. That group was established by Borden Parish Council to facilitate the building of this vast housing estate. The group was created to assist in communication with all, knowing that decisions must go through our full council. Borden Parish Council requests this application is deferred. You will see that a training pitch is requested. The Rugby Union clearly states suggested sizes of training pitches, and they certainly do not need to replicate a full-size pitch. They are normally much smaller. The training pitch suggested is another maximum full-size rugby pitch, thus providing the club with 3 full-size pitches. But we do not wish to object to that training area. We accept the training pitch was in the Public Air Inquiry Inspector's findings, but so were the open spaces. Our deferral request is to the public open space area being marked out with white lines as 2 kickabout training areas, which is contrary to the developer's outline planning permission, and is clearly for the rugby club's use. How much ground does a rugby club actually need? Over the last couple of years, the developer engaged us in dialogue as to what we would want for the public on this particular open space, which is bordered all the way round by a busy 60-mile-an-hour road. They liked and encouraged our suggestion of a small park, some apple trees complementing the new apple estate, a relaxing picnic area where people could go and enjoy the remaining countryside, and importantly, any remaining wildlife could flourish. It was a complete bombshell when we read on this application that the developer had reneged on earlier verbal agreements for an open space park on this particular area. Marking this area out as a kickabout area is madness. The space is clearly marked out for the use of the rugby club and not the general public. It has a boundary all round the east and northern edge of a busy 60-mile-an-hour road. Suggested small hedges that have gaps will not retain balls and even running players from entering the road, and once that problem is realised, any later introduction of fencing would be further against SWAL's rural open spaces policies. Drivers will be distracted by persons kicking balls on a higher plane, which is particularly dangerous at that established busy T-junction and rugby club entrance, both at that location. We believe highways have missed this, particularly following recent alleged comments from a senior KCC official stating that due to a massive planning request, the credibility of current highways reports are questionable. In conclusion, this is not about the oversized training pitch, which is in addition to the 2 full-size established pitches on the other side of the road. It is about the marked out with white lines kickabout area in a public open space. This should be an all-inclusive area for all to enjoy, as promised and directed by the planning inspector, and not just another training area for the already well-provided for club. So please simply remove this ridiculous 2 white line kickabout area from this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sims. Can I now invite Alice Day, please? Good evening, Alice. Hopefully you heard, but take the seat. There's 2 buttons. It's actually on now, so
Yes, I think it's already on. Thank
as
you.
soon as you're comfortable, your 3 minutes will start.
Good evening, Chairman and members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of this application, which seeks reserve matters consent for 5.8 hectares of open space at Phase 2F of the development at land at Wises Lane. The proposals deliver a range of experiences which meet the needs of all ages. As you will be aware, the wider site benefits from outline planning permission for a mixed-use development which includes 675 homes. Phase 2F is one of the largest areas of open space to be provided as part of this development and sits alongside those homes that now benefit from reserve matters approval. As part of the multifunctional space, it includes walk-in routes through the space which will tie in with the existing public rights of way. These paths are interspersed with new tree planting, pockets of woodland planting and wildflower seed which provide for ecological enhancement through the creation of new habitats. Benches and picnic tables are also provided throughout this space, providing opportunities to rest and relax. The eastern half of the phase provides for more formal play and sports facilities, delivering a neighbourhood area of play comprising 10 pieces of equipment, an activity zone including a half-size basketball court, a rugby training pitch and 2 kickabout areas. The proposals fully accord with the approved parameter plans under outline planning permission, which establish the extent of the development parcels as well as the landscaping and open space strategy. This includes the location of the rugby training pitch and the kickabout areas, which have always been shown on the approved parameter plans to ensure the development delivers sufficient open space, both formal and informal. During the application process, comments were raised by the Parish Council that the proposed location of the kickabout areas would distract drivers travelling along Wises Lane. There would be an 8-metre separation distance between the kickabout areas and Wises Lane, 4 metres of which would comprise a woodland buffer planting. This is a sufficient separation distance so not to cause a distraction, as confirmed by KCC Highways, who fundamentally raised no safety concerns with the proposals. The detailed landscaping design and layout of the open space has been informed by ongoing collaborative working with your officers and other consultees who critically raised no technical objections to the proposals. The outcome is a high-quality area of open space which provides a significant area of green infrastructure to benefit the future residents of the development, as well as the existing local community. This is a carefully considered application, securing the delivery of a significant area of new green infrastructure, which Barratt David Wilson are keen to deliver alongside the new homes currently under construction. The application submission does not suggest any endorsement of the application on behalf of the Parish Council. It simply acknowledges the fact that we presented the proposals to the Wises Lane Monitoring Group. Your officers has recommended this application for approval and we respectfully request that you endorse your officer's recommendation. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Alice. Right, members, has everybody read and understood the agenda item? Good. For the benefit of the public, we now go through a procedure which is to allow the debate to continue. It needs to be proposed and seconded. I will propose from the chair that this item is in line with the officer recommendation, which is for approval. Is that seconded, please? Councillor Braun, thank you very much. Do we have any ward members here this evening that would like to speak? Councillor Kavanagh.
Sorry, I'm not speaking as a ward member. As normal with the parish council, very well represents the issues. Thank you. I'm staying on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any visiting members that wish to speak? No. Okay. That has been proposed and seconded. Members, over to you. Councillor Bonney.
Yeah, I just wanted to get an understanding. As a question for the officers, really. This was obviously submitted back in, I think, March. I wanted to understand why we've had so many amended documents. There was obviously an agreement, an extension of time back in September, but we've got over 11 documents that have been amended here. Could we have an explanation as to why? And can the officer also confirm that the ground risk ground gas risk assessment has been done for this part of the site? Because obviously Crowles Lane, KCC ex-waste dump that is no longer used is being monitored for gas, and I know it implicated part of the site, but this sits within the 500 metre curtilage of that site, and I just want to check that that's been done. And then I've got one more question, depending on the answers.
Cool, thank you. Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. I can answer the amendments question. The other one I'll need to look into. There's been a number of corrections needed. I think the first set of plans we saw, the public footpath didn't follow the alignment that was on the public, the official public right-of-way route. It's sort of bent north to follow the shape of the site rather than in a straight line, which is how it should have been. The most recent set of amendments were related mostly to the NEAP and the changes to the fencing. It's been to get the equipment to a standard that satisfied our green spaces manager, open spaces officers. I need to look up the gas question. I haven't got an answer for that one.
Yeah, okay. So there's a couple of things that follow that. Thank you. Yeah, the gas thing is quite important because I know this isn't residential, but it doesn't matter. As I understand it, national policy applies wherever there's development, and given the structure, the geological structure under it, I am concerned to make sure that any development complies in terms of any possible gas escape, wherever it be. The other thing that concerns me is obviously we've had all these amendments. We've had correspondence from KCC Ecology. Can we have confirmation that they have commented on these revised plans? Because I'm just looking at their comments back and they seem to be before all these amended plans came back. And then I've got one other thing.
Give us your one other thing now and then.
Other thing was, hold on, hold on, I'll have to look through my notes, hold on. So there's, what was it? The other thing was, so we've done gas. It was around, yeah, so it's around the layout. I can't remember. I'm having a brain fart, sorry. Let me look at my notes.
Okay, Ian, please.
You're going to have to give me a couple of minutes to look up the answers for some of these.
Yeah, cool. We'll come back to you then. Councillor Winkles.
Thank you, Chair. Can the officer put up in my usual fashion of asking, a view of the piece of land that we are talking about? It was mentioned, I believe, by the parish council. There's a 60-mile-an-hour road, which I take refer to Wises Lane. Can we actually see on the screen? Have you got a picture of it? That's about. Have you? We've got a photograph.
I haven't got any photographs now. I've just got.
You have no photograph of the actual land. Okay, I have a pretty good idea where we're talking about, but okay, if you haven't got it, which I think is a bit of a disappointment. But thank you.
Councillor Winkles, where do you want the photograph? What do you want it to show?
Basically, where this is going, as I understand, adjacent to Wises Lane, that piece of land where this is proposed.
Do you think a photograph is beneficial rather than the site plan?
I do actually, yes.
You do?
To save a site meeting, or call it for a site meeting, yes.
Councillor Winkles. Councillor Bonney, have you done with your questions?
Well, I suppose some of it will depend on the answer to the gas risk. But the other part was around, what was it? What's the ask was? Saying around that what this is for the access, appearance, landscaping, layout and scale. And Southern Water have raised issues, and I quite agree with them, because this is a water protection zone, which is part of the reason why I'm interested in the other matter around contamination and gas from the old waste site down the road.
Chair, point of order.
And
Councillor Hunt, what is the point of order?
It is 3.1.39.10.
3.1.
The question should be put before the meeting and not at the meeting unless there are any questions of clarification. Asking questions like this that need detail for officers to go away and look at, we should all be having that looked at first, with papers coming to us with the answers not looked at the meeting.
They are clarifications.
I don't disagree. It's clearly proving challenging for Ian to find that, not through want of trying, but just the amount of paperwork that's involved. But I take your point, Councillor.
So if I could finish, maybe,
You can.
on my point of clarification. Because it is a point of clarification, because I looked at the history on this site and the conditions discharge, and it was unclear to me through the history as to what had been discharged in terms of that gas risk safety assessment. Okay. And also on this was raised through Southern Water. Now, Southern Water don't write willy-nilly. They write with good reason, and they have written in with good reason on this, asking for a drainage strategy. Now, that affects the appearance of this site. Potentially, we could end up with suds and all sorts of other things. Now, bearing in mind, this is a water protection zone. We need that clarity now as we are agreeing the appearance. So, do we have any clarity on the drainage condition, or are we going to be deciding this blind without that knowledge?
Ian.
Right, I'm going to have to do drainage in a little bit. I would say, in terms of contamination, there's conditions 53 and 57 which didn't, if I read them, make my life easier. No development shall commence in any phase until an investigation in relation to soil, gas, etc., is what's referred to in condition 53. And condition 57 says much the same, no development shall be commenced until a scheme of gas protection measures necessary for that phase have been submitted and approved in writing. I'm paraphrasing, they're obviously a lot longer. So the measures, I haven't got a straight answer as to whether they've been discharged for this site. I wasn't really expecting these matters to come up in relation to this because they're not directly related to an application for appearance, layout, scale or appearance, or landscaping or access, whichever ones I've not just listed properly. Those measures of protection are in place and would need to be discharged if they haven't already been for this development. The Reserve Matters application isn't relying on the approval of those conditions, because those conditions could be, if they haven't already, they could be addressed prior to the commencement of development. They don't need to be submitted and agreed prior to the submission of a Reserve Matters scheme. In terms of drainage, I haven't had a chance to look that up yet. I will do. In terms of the KCC ecology comments, their most recent ones came in on the 21st of July. The most recent amended plans were in October. However, those amendments didn't really go to the heart of what the ecology interests in this site were. They're relatively minor changes, and they wouldn't have had an impact on the ecology comments, which, again, for the matters that we're considering and having regard to all of the other protection measures that are in place under other conditions, isn't fundamental or determinative in relation to this application for Reserve Matters, because all of the ecology matters are addressed by other conditions of the primary outline planning permission.
Thank you. Councillor Gould, please. Sorry. Councillor Braun, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Chairman. No, I just wanted to get some clarification because I don't drive. But as far as I'm aware, you're supposed to be paying attention to the road, especially if you're driving at 60 miles an hour and not looking at people playing on a piece of green space. Can I just get clarification for that, please?
Ian, is that an easy one?
Sorry, I was busy looking at the other one. The other questions.
Councillor Braun, can you repeat that, please?
I just wanted to say, I was just seeking some clarification because I don't drive, but it's been mentioned that people may be distracted by people playing with football. But aren't you supposed to be paying attention to the road and not a field in the distance? I just wanted clarification on that.
Probably the highway code's not for me, but yeah, I would have said so, yes.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if I could have an image up of the distance between, because obviously it's not built yet, but there are 2 rugby pitches being built on the opposite side of the road. Is that correct? If that's okay, Ian. It's just that I'm looking at what the parish council is saying about it does look like a bleeding of a lot of formal use of the land, which looks a bit excessive from what I'm trying to understand. But
Thank you, Jim. The rugby club is this area.
yeah,
The orange here. The kickabout pitches, as you'll see, are in that area there. And the rugby training pitch is in that area there. Oops, sorry.
just following on from that. So the rugby training pitch, is that specifically for rugby training, or is it for any use for any other people on the site?
It would be. It's not closed off in any way, so it would be open. It's marked as a rugby training pitch, but it's not. There's nothing to stop other people going onto it.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Chair. It's only that I was concerned that it may become formalised, and then it means that other people haven't got access to that. I just wonder what's in place to make sure that it's usable by everyone on the estate rather than the rugby club.
The Chairman, I think the fact that it's just generally going to be left open. If it was fenced off and secured shut for any reasons, then there'd be a strict control over the use. Where if it's open, that wouldn't be the case. Same as most sports pitches.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you, Chairman. Regarding Councillor Thompson's question just now, I know where the current rugby pitch is, where it's open to all. Once in a while, they come and play rugby. I think it's once every 2 weeks. The rest of the time, it's a dog walking pitch, a picnic area, kids play football, kids play, regardless, at the back of Grove Park School. I assume that this one is something similar. From what I understand, the Section 106 required 3 rugby pitches, so this is the 3rd one, but it will have access to everyone. My question through the chair is, I assume the kickabout pitches, the little ones, are in conjunction with our officers looking at the play pitch strategy? Because I know there are needs for all sorts of extra pitches, and I know from having 2 sons myself, kids will go and play football with or without stuff marked out in particular. My other thing is about highways. One of the appeal decisions we lost because we went against highways recommendations. If highways don't think there's a problem, we can't override that because they are deemed to be the experts. That's my problem. Thank you.
Councillor Kavanagh, I'll come back on that last point quickly. If this committee feels as a majority that KCC Highways have got it wrong, and we have substantial grounds, then you can object against it, but that's your call. But thank you. Ian, have you managed to find the outstanding information?
Some I'm looking at. We've signed off condition 53 in relation to gas. And 57. There's a plan that I've just seen on the 53. Well, done together, which focused on the position of the rugby club rather than this site as being the area where the trial pits were taking place. In relation to the kickabout pitches, I should probably clarify. Sorry, this is a bit like a yo-yo, but.
Is there a yo-yo?
This presentation's been on and off. If I may, that the on the submissions that were part of the open space specification secured through the section 106, the markings were shown which would align with what you'd expect of a sports pitch, and on the open space specific plan, this one, that green hatching is demarking sports pitches, with that red being the rugby pitch. None of this is doesn't align with what was approved under the terms of the open space specification through the section 106 and shown on the parameter plans that accompanied the application.
Sorry, I missed that. Was or wasn't? I didn't. This was shown on the open space specification to be sports pitches, and that's what we're getting, as well as the NEEP.
Councillor Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. In the actual plan here, you should section 7.6.4. I'd like a little bit of clarification on this because it's looking at the kickabout soccer, which is usually designated as a multi-use games area. Now, usually designed. I mean, can we clarify whether it's going to be a multi-use game area? Because there's discrepancies. I don't understand why a local standard play area, the main difference being that the Neat Park area also has an area for kickabout soccer, which is usually designed as a multi-use game area. Now, that doesn't really state that it's going to be a multi-user game area, and usually designed. I mean, can we clarify that? Can we make that a little bit more positive to ensure that that kickabout area will be a multi-use game area?
Chairman, the point that was being made in the report there was to try and differentiate between what separates a local standard play area and a neighbourhood equipped area of play, and its relationship of a multi-use games area. In this case, we're getting a games area in the form of 2 kickabout pitches and a basketball court. So that's the provision that as a whole, we've got various sports pitches, as you're hearing, and the equipped area of play, which is of a scale that befits a NEEP.
Well, it doesn't really sound that definite on here. Usually designed to be. I'd like that to say will be designated as a multi-use game area, because it's open to interpretation there and could be used by the rugby club as their training area full time.
Through you, Chairman, so said the point of that sentence, as I'm reading it, was to clarify the difference. It's not about whether that sentence isn't commenting about this proposal. It's clarifying the difference between an LSPA and an NEAP. That was the point of that sentence. It's not making a comment about the adequacy or the provisions on this site. It's clarifying the difference between the two.
So what is it then?
It's a neighbourhood equipped area of play with 2 kickabouts, a rugby training pitch, a basketball court or basketball facility, the whole court, and an equipped area of play.
So it is a multi-use games area, is it?
It's a NEEP.
Questions? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, because I'm not very bright, I find this quite difficult. I'm surprised, though, that the developers don't appear to, or the developers' agents don't appear to have negotiated with, or not negotiated much with the local parish council, who, of course, are the bottom end of local government in that area. I'm concerned about that, and I think developers really ought to be doing that. But I can appreciate that it's incredibly complicated, this site, and there we are. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Any further questions? None. That has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour of the proposed... Sorry? We talk about...
Sorry, we've asked questions. We're going to get into a part about debating, aren't we?
We've had that. Debate then, Councillor Bonney.
Yeah, thank you. So I asked my clarification questions. I think what I'm concerned about here, after the clarification questions, is the order in which these things are coming forward. Yeah, and I hear that there is a condition, and part of the condition has been signed off. Is that they're coming in an order out of sync. So as I mentioned earlier, we don't know what the drainage strategy is, and there could be some gas monitoring, we don't know. But if that turns up in the middle of a rugby pitch and we've just signed it off as a decision-making authority, that doesn't look brilliant. So what I was asking for is some clarification around that. So yes, we might have a condition, but we don't know the technical wording because we're delegating it to officers. And actually, I think that should come back to the committee so that we do know what it is we're getting. Because so often this committee delegates things and we have no idea what that is, what that technical is. And when it comes to things in my ward, I've found mistakes in those. And what's of significance here is the order in which these are proposed. And we're going to look really daft that we sign this off and say, yeah, you can have your kickabout pitches and you can have this, but actually we need to put a great big suds along here for the road to drain and various other things, and it's going to completely upend this. And when we've seen the applicant has put in an application back in March, changed 11 of the documents subject to comments that have come forward, presumably from officers and consultees. We've got Ecology, who made comments back in July but haven't opined on the latest set. Now, we might say that they are small changes, but they're around prows and public access, around how the site is laid out. But it doesn't hang well together for me. I'd prefer a deferment, quite frankly, to sort all of this out and for it to come back as a complete picture. Thank you.
You can intersect. Anybody else? No. Right, Ian.
Thank you, Chairman. In relation to the order of things, we're governed by the decision notice from the Secretary of State in this case, and the condition 49, which relates to drainage, which I've got to the bottom of. I haven't found a discharge for this particular part of the site, but there may well be one. I've just not had a chance to find it. It says no development shall commence in any phase until the sustainable surface water drainage scheme for that phase has been submitted and approved. And it's the same with the contamination, which has been signed off, so we don't need to worry about that. These conditions allow for things to occur in this order, so it would be difficult to say that it's to require things to happen in a different order to what the decision notice from the Secretary of State says that they can be submitted in. There's no requirement for these details to come in prior to the submission of a reserved matters application. They have to come in prior to the commencement of development.
Councillor Bonney?
Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate the officer's comments there. However, things around like drainage, as we say, will affect the design and layout. It will affect the appearance. And that is what we are here to discuss tonight, is that final bit. And we can't. So, you know, therein lies the rub. And I'm not happy to proceed until we know what the final design is. That's our decision. That's what the committee is making a decision on tonight.
Anybody else wish to comment? That has been proposed and seconded. Those in favour of the proposal, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any abstentions? 1 abstention. That is therefore carried in favour. Thank you very much. We now move on to, I can find my piece of paper, item 2.3, which is 25-500115-4, the Abbey School in Faversham. Can I have the officer update first, please?
Thank you, Chair. There is no update since the committee report was published. I have a short presentation if you would like me to present it.
Yes, please, Ben.
Thank you. Item 2.3 seeks full planning permission for a synthetic turf pitch, including associated fencing, flood lighting and storage, and an extension to the existing car park to create 89 new spaces. The site forms part of the Abbey School grounds, which is located within the settlement boundaries of Faversham on the southern side of London Road. The site comprises playing fields, open space areas, and existing parking areas within the Abbey School grounds, and adjoins an existing synthetic sports pitch and sports centre buildings. This part of the school grounds is clearly well established for its sports and recreation offering at the school. It is also well contained and screened from both London Road to the north and Brogdale Road to the west by the existing mature trees that line these boundaries. Vegetation, school buildings, and other playing fields generally intervene the site's visibility from the south and west. This slide shows the proposed layout of the sports pitch and car park extension. Note there is a residential property nearby to the south, whilst the other nearby residential properties are located on the opposite side of London Road to the north and Brogdale Road to the west. This slide shows part of the existing pitch. This slide shows the location of the proposed pitch. This slide shows the view north towards London Road. And this shows the view towards Brogdale Road. The proposed synthetic turf pitch would provide enhanced opportunities for year-round sports and recreation at the site and would complement the school's current sports offering with high-quality, multifunctional sports pitch. Officers consider that the proposal is appropriate to the context of the site and sufficiently mitigates its impact on nearby residential properties as demonstrated in the noise and light impact assessments and subject to the recommended conditions. Furthermore, ecological and highways impacts are also demonstrated to be acceptable, subject to conditions. The application is therefore recommended for approval as set out within the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ben. We have 2 speakers. Can I please invite Mr. Lee Souter? Good evening, Mr. Souter. If you'd like to take that chair, there is a console in front. As soon as you're comfortable and ready, the button on the left will start illuminating, and then you have your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chair, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of Faversham Strikeforce Football Club. For us, this project is one of the most strategically important in our 26 years as a community club. We currently run 58 teams supporting 864 players and 179 volunteers. This season, the club's social return on investment was valued at 1.1 million, with 1 in 5 children from the town playing for the club. but demand has grown far beyond what our existing facilities allowed. We now have over 300 children on a waiting list. That's 300 young people missing out on sport, structure and a sense of belonging. The project would directly change that. It would allow us to grow our inclusive squads for children with SENDs. It would help meet the huge demand for women and girls football, and we've already allocated 70% of peak slots to those underrepresented groups. It would reduce our waiting list, support the town's population growth, and keep football accessible to all families. The project has listened carefully to residents' concerns, and we take our responsibilities seriously. A B&G strategy is in place, parking capacity is increased, an acoustic fence is planned. We would brief all volunteers to follow the noise management plan. Our membership is dominated by children and young people, which naturally avoids abusive language. We would support the school in following the lighting curfew. We have a strong committee and welfare team committed to working with residents quickly if any issues arise. The facility is not commercial in nature. It is fully funded and sits under a community use agreement to keep the pricing fair and open to all. It would also support Faversham Rugby Club and the Kent Disability League. We have explored every alternative site available. The QE school was ruled out due to heritage constraints, flood risk and traffic issues. Perry Court cannot be used due to overhead power cables and lack of supporting infrastructure. Primary schools do not have the space. The sports hub at Love Lane was removed following amended plans, and the Duchy development pitch is unlikely to be available for other community clubs. This year alone, our work delivered £38,000 worth in savings linked to reduced antisocial behaviour and juvenile crime, alongside major physical and mental health benefits. A facility like this strengthens that impact significantly. The project meets a strategic demand in the playing pitch strategy, local football facility plan, and responds directly to concerns and brings lasting value to the Faversham's community life. On behalf of our volunteers, our families, and the hundreds of young people waiting for the chance to join and play football, we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Souter. And joining us online, we have Nicola Broad-Bartlett. Nicola, can you hear us okay? Hello, Nicola, can you hear us? You're muted, Nicola.
Can you hear me now?
I certainly can, thank you. Can you
Lovely.
hear?
I'm just going to try and sort my camera out as well.
No worries. As soon as you're ready and you start speaking next, your 3 minutes will commence.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Our house is surrounded on 3 sides by the playing fields, and therefore we are the most affected by this proposal. An artificial pitch already exists at the school, and the application for that was based on a noise assessment of only around 30 participants, just the same as this one. However, the reality is very different, and there are regularly in excess of 300 people in attendance. Are you fully aware that the noise assessment is based solely on a study of one pitch being used by 32 participants and takes no account of the other 7 pitches often in use at the same time? The noise assessment confirms on page 5 that it doesn't take account of noise from any other pitches, which is of course ridiculous. No sound engineer has attended our house or the school to actually record current noise levels. The noise report literally states that it's based solely on modelling and Google Maps. Indeed, upon further investigation, it appears to be the same noise template used in many other planning applications around the country, just modified to suit. The submission is therefore deliberately misleading by omission of all other noise factors, and it has been presented to you in the hope that you will tick a box and won't look too closely for missing details. We already record decibel figures way in excess of reasonable noise levels, and we have reported this to the school, but we have been continually ignored. Living as the school's closest neighbour, they act with no consideration for us. Not once have they reached out to discuss usage of their pitches, which has massively increased to 7 days a week and ruins our own enjoyment of our garden. We can see there's been a lot of support for this new pitch, being a great facility for Faversham clubs, but I don't believe the school really cares about local clubs. They could prioritise the current artificial pitch for these Faversham clubs, but they simply don't. Their booking system shows that significant usage is by clubs from much farther afield, so their motivations are clearly not for local people. I don't believe that you can, in good conscience, consent to this fabricated reality. But if you do, then surely it should be on the condition that this pitch be used in isolation and not at the same time as any other pitch. Also, attendees should be restricted to a maximum of 32, because this is what the noise model is based on, and noise outside of these parameters has simply not been accounted for. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Right. In line with the procedure, I shall recommend, in line with Officer's statement, that is item 25-500115 full. Is that seconded, please? Councillor Braun, thank you very much. Members. Councillor Braun.
Thank you, Chairman. No, I don't want to be speculative here because I don't know the facts. I'm not from the area. I don't know how long the school's been there, how long the house has been there. But I'd operate under the general presumption that if I were to move next to a house, move into a house next to a school, there'd be some increased noise. And under that, I don't know what the objector would reasonably expect the school to do. Maybe declare martial law and make sure that none of the students make any noise due to that. I don't know. Now, I mean, I'm happy to listen to what everyone else has to say, but I don't see any screaming issue here.
Thank you, Councillor Braun. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring attention to the games, really. I went to school here many years ago, and we had no artificial pitches because we played winter sport on grass with mud. And the reason was a traditional game because it was a soft pitch. So we've become a bit obsessed with cleanliness and a disassociation from our natural environment. And fake pitches are a dreadful thing. I just want to highlight a few things here. It'll be roughly 2 kilograms of plastic to cover that pitch. It's 7,420 square metres of area that will be lost as, if you like, green space. In small microplastic pollution alone, it'll give off 2.2 tonnes of plastic pollution and microplastics washed into our water systems. So it's worth bearing that in mind, but we don't need to do that. We've always had soft pitches for winter games. Why are we getting obsessed with plastic pitches and concreting areas over? It's just not necessary. We can still run this as a sports facility as it's intended for outdoor sports in an outdoor connected to nature environment, which is mud. Stop getting worried about getting dirty. Get children out, get them covered in mud, enjoy it. But for the sake of that amount of pollution that would be created for a plastic pitch, it's not a suitable thing to have in a semi-rural area. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I do like it when members don't sit on the fence. Councillor Ben Martin, please.
But I'm sure, Chair, you'll excuse my splinters on this particular occasion. So I did call this application in, and the reason I called this application in is fairly simple. I was contacted by around 20 residents of Brogdale Road and London Road objecting to the application. I was also contacted by Mr Souter and about 250 of his club's members supporting the application. My general thought process was that given that level of public interest, it should be made in public and not as a delegated decision, despite the fact that I have full confidence in the officers for making such decisions. I figured that actually we needed to make sure that the debate was had in open plenary and in a transparent way. There are issues with this one. BNG is being one of them. Now, I did double check through the Kent BNG register. There aren't any patches where you can purchase BNG credits in Faversham. You can in Throwley, you can in Sea Salter. You can't actually anywhere in the Canterbury district, which is quite interesting. I would suggest that if we were minded to approve, particularly given that the school is now part of a multi-academy trust that is not based in this area, that we have an informative that in the first instance the BNG spending should be utilised within borough and ideally within 10 miles of the site. The report itself suggests that this pitch would be utilised for longer than the existing pitch is conditioned for. However, the conditions match the conditions that are on the existing pitch. So I think for clarity purposes, we need to make sure that that is the case, because I think that mitigates some of it, ensuring that the floodlights and the pitch use finishes at 9:30 and not 10 p.m, and that there is not an extension to the number of hours that the pitches are in use for overall, in order to benefit to maintain some level of amenity for local residents. And I do think they have a point on the Brogdale Road and London Road in that when we were there, those pitches were used, let's face it, Saturday morning and then most of the week until about 5-6 o'clock. There were no floodlights. So you did move into that property 30 odd years ago. You knew that come dark, noise is generally going to stop. To have that 7 nights a week right the way through would be, I think, really unfair, but equally we need to balance that with the need to provide all-weather pitches, even if I do share my colleagues' view around the use of plastic. I'd far rather, particularly for rugby, be on a soft pitch and covered in mud, but this is the way that sport seems to be heading. So as much as I'm on the fence at this time, I'll listen to the debate, but I wanted to make sure that the committee were clear as to why the calling came.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Martin. I apologise if you said you called it in. I've got it that Faversham Town Council objected.
That's the other one. That's the other Faversham one.
Right, I beg your pardon. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, I've got Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yet again, I will repeat, I had a son well into Sunday football. Yes, he got covered with mud, but sometimes the matches had to be called off because of the state of the pitches. His father was a groundsman, and trying to get the pitch back up to scratch, wherever that happened to be, was often quite difficult. Having been involved in the playing pitch strategy, I know we have a demand for them. I know the site, access is easy, but I have a concern. There seems to be an inconsistency about the proposed opening hours. On 7.6.4, it says proposed hours of use 8 till 10 Monday to Friday, 8 to 6 Saturday and Sunday. But on page 94 under number 24, it says 7 to 9:30 Monday to Friday, not 8 to 10, and on Saturdays 9 to 6, not 8 to 6, and 10 to 6 on Sundays and bank holidays, not 8 to 6. We have to have consistency, please.
We'll come to that in a moment. Councillor Winklis.
Thank you, Chair. Overall, I think this is a very good proposal. Investment in sports facilities. Going back some years ago, in 2012, in this country, we had the Olympics. It was encouraging sports clubs to invest in facilities. I can't overall see a problem with it, but one issue I'm picking up from what Councillor Martin said and Councillor Canada, there is a bit of a mishmash, to use that phrase, with different opening hours. I think it would be basically better to have a consistency of the opening hours for every day of the week. And I would also take up Councillor Martin's point, the latest it should be is 9:30 at night. So if we could amend that condition or add that condition.
Come back to the timings in a moment when we've had all the speakers. Councillor Stephen, please, then Councillor Bonney.
Thank you, Jim. Obviously the opening hours are 7 days a week and go on till sort of early evening, and that will generate a lot of noise for the local houses around. Now, I speak from personal experience here. I live opposite a sports ground, which fortunately doesn't play football during the working days, Monday to Friday, but Saturday and Sunday they are full on. There's 3 pitches there, and it is lovely to hear the kids, running, shouting and enjoying themselves, but it's certainly not pleasant for hearing the overzealous parents shouting and swearing and encouraging their children to play better in various words that I won't repeat here. So I sympathise with those living close by that if that's going to be 7 days a week, that is just not on. I do appreciate that it's great for the kids, and I'm all for it. I mean, I took my son years ago to football training. It was enjoyable, but I got to sympathise now with the residents that will be close by. To have that every day of the week is more than I think they deserve. Yes, they moved there next to a school, but this has only just started now, I suppose. And I moved into where I live now, and I knew that there was going to be games played opposite, and that I've accepted. But during the summer months, they also do training. The athletics is quieter than football, I can assure you, and but it is still something that you have to put up with. And being that close, I think the residents deserve a little bit more consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen. Councillor Bonney, and then online we've got Councillor Perkin.
Yeah, mine's a question of clarification first off, which is around noise, because obviously that's been raised by one of the speakers. I was just looking through the report and trying to find where we've got, if we can find a reference for a baseline at various points across the week for noise when the pitches are being used in their current format. Do we have that? Has the officers, our environmental officers, been visited and done those background baseline checks?
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. So there was a noise impact assessment that was submitted with the application. That's had its own monitoring included as part of that. I don't believe that our environmental health officers would do their own monitoring on top of that. But the environmental health officers have reviewed that noise impact assessment and agree with the conclusions and the methodology of that assessment. They've suggested conditions to control the hours of use. And there is also an acoustic barrier that will be installed to the south of the sports pitch, which will mitigate noise impacts to that close neighbouring property. The lady who spoke before as well, that's her property. So, yes, you have a follow-up question, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, time and time again, we see, an applicant will put a report in, and those of us that have sat through in public inquiries will know that, they need to be assessed for the reality on the ground. And, I think it's all right, someone writing a desktop study, but how does that really correlate to the real world situation that the neighbour is talking about there? And I think what we're saying is that hasn't been done. So they might say the methodology is correct, but that doesn't mean that it's correct because they haven't actually assessed what the current baseline is. The acoustic fence I'd picked up, and I wanted to ask about that because acoustic fences tend to be somewhat solid of nature because they've got to absorb the noise. Do we have somewhere an illustration of what that is? Because it's 3 metres tall. That's no 6 foot high fence. This is a substantial structure. And I suppose my concern is how does that then impact the open space, the nature of the open space, if you've got a 3 metre tall acoustic fence? Because normally as well in an acoustic report, it shows you how quickly the noise drops off and how it impacted. So if you've got those, that would be handy.
Unfortunately, I don't have those slides handy. I wasn't expecting to need those. I could dig through the file and put those on the screen if you like. But the acoustic barrier is located very close to the southern edge of the proposed sports pitch. So, I mean, the open character of the site is that it's playing fields. So the addition of the sports pitch with the acoustic barrier, I don't think the acoustic barrier is going to be hugely harmful to the openness on its own, considering that it'll be close to that southern edge of the sports pitch. It's not sort of sitting out on its own somewhere looking incongruous. There'll be 2 sports pitches together. One of those will have the acoustic barrier close to the southern edge of it.
I suppose that depends where you stand, doesn't it, in that open space around the edge of it.
Yeah. Again, okay. It's sports fields. It's not really open countryside in this location. It's surrounded by existing development. It's within the settlement boundaries. It's an established school site. It's very well established as the sports and playing fields of that school.
Before I bring in Councillor Perkin, now you've got me excited. We've spoken in this chamber over the years about acoustic fences, and I made the statement, and Councillor Bonney will recall, an acoustic fence is not an acoustic fence because there are hundreds of different styles and types. So the reason for the acoustic fence in this application is to protect who? As the first question.
It's to protect the neighbouring property to the south. I've forgotten the name of the...
That immediate property on the southern part of that pitch?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I'll come back to Councillor Bonney's point. There will be an ambient base level taken at 2 o'clock in the morning, typically, to identify the ambient level in that area. There will be readings taken throughout the day, rush hour, when the sports pitches are used, school opening, school closing, etc., to give you a broad line. This is what we need to achieve. Now, your acoustic fence or screen is then calculated based on the mean of those figures. I don't want to sit here and go through the specific detail of it, but the first thing that I would say is, and this might, it won't come up, but the last item on tonight's agenda, we went very deeply into this subject, because you will get a thing called reflection off of that fence, northbound. That's all I'll say on it. Okay? Councillor Perkin, please. You've been very patient.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me speak as an online visiting member. I hear the concerns from the resident and from members of the committee. What I am here to speak in favour of the proposal. As Mr. Souter has already explained, it's a strategic development for them, but it's also really important for some of the delivery of our playing pitch strategy, which as a committee, the community committee before Housing, Health and Community put together over a couple of years with lots of input from Sport England. As Mr. Souter has already said, there's 300 kids that are waiting for the opportunity to be able to be involved in a sport, and we know how positively sport impacts people, young people's well-being, but also their sense of belonging within their community. I think it's also worth coming back to the idea that the school aren't necessarily using the pitches just for local teams. I think the issue is that there is an extreme lack of there's a lack of available sports facilities across the borough, and the playing pitch strategy has picked up the need for an increase in sports provision, and that is why schools and clubs are having to travel around. And ideally, we'd be in a situation where every child and adult had access to sporting facilities where they live, but that's not always the case. So I really applaud the work of Strikeforce as a community organisation. I think they provide a huge amount of benefit for not just Faversham, but the kind of wider villages as well. And I think they have put in a considerable amount of effort to making sure that the noise impacts are limited, notwithstanding the conditions that the noise report have brought out. So I would speak in favour of it with those conditions applied. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Councillor Perkin. Anybody else? Councillor Thompson.
Just the note as well, I imagine the grey section is the increased car parking of 89 cars. Surely if you're keeping fit, what are 90 car spaces needed when it's so close to public transport and another loss of open space? I don't know, I just feel that we're sort of kowtowing to people's convenience rather than looking at it. And there's plenty of space there to still carry out the sports within those green spaces. I don't know, I just feel that we're getting a little bit obsessed with convenience, really.
I'm guessing that could be for away matches. So teams visiting from Shropshire, I don't know. Ben.
Sorry, do you want me to come in on that?
Yeah, please.
Yep. So we discussed this as well. I guess when you've got back-to-back games, you've got away teams arriving, there's spectators as well. Actually, you could probably need that amount of car parking. So the need is there, but that's how we felt. And we would expect the applicant would know how much car parking this sort of use would generate. So we didn't question that further during the application. Can I also just clarify a point that was raised earlier about this condition, just to put to bed the inconsistency. So it was well picked up, a good comprehension test there that yes, there was an inconsistency between the report and the condition. So you've read the report, which is good. So it should be what is said in the report. The report's the part that was more carefully constructed than the condition. So the condition should actually be changed so that the hours of operation finish at 10 p.m. on weekdays and start at 8 a.m. on weekends. So that's consistent with what I've said in 7.6.4.
Councillor Kavanagh, you happy with that?
Yes.
Splendid. That will be amended, yeah, not might.
Yes, it will definitely be
cool.
amended. Thank you.
Councillor Ben Martin.
And unfortunately, I think that we need to amend it back to the way that the conditions written in the report so that it matches the existing pitch that is on site. The other pitch has conditions that were laid out in a decision made by KCC, who were the planning authority for that application, which matches the ones in the condition that is written here, which we're now saying we're going to change and make longer. Surely we want to make sure that there's consistency between the two pitches and that they start, finish, same point, so that we're not extending the length of time the residents have got noise and light issues. Just that to me is one of the compromises that would make this easier to deal with.
Before I bring you in, Councillor Marchington, I think we just need to look at the application before us, not a different application. But what are you going to say, Ben?
Well, I was just going to clarify that if you look carefully, the red line boundary actually excludes that existing pitch. So that this application does not allow them to use that existing pitch beyond 9:30, which is controlled by the conditions that they're subject to. So if they were to use that existing pitch beyond that, that would be a breach of planning control. So if they wanted to change that, they would need to apply separately for that.
Little snippet, yeah.
So I'm not saying that they would be allowed to use the existing pitch for longer. What I'm saying is if you've got one pitch which has X hours and a pitch next to it that has Y hours, it doesn't make sense. Surely both should have X hours.
We understand. Councillor MacDonald. Sorry, Councillor Marchington. Beg your pardon, Peter.
To clarify something, you spoke about acoustic barriers, and I used to install those all over the country. You're correct that the one that just reflects noise back and doesn't affect or absorb anything. The really good ones actually have multi-facet holes that for the sound to enter, and then they get bounced off through several layers many times, and it turns the noise energy into heat, and the heat is dispersed behind the barrier. It's just to point out what ones that work and ones that don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marchington. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. On what Councillor Martin has said, I agree with him on that. I think listening to everything else that was said about the concerns over noise, etc., and the living conditions of residents there, I can understand the concerns, but I think it's well covered in the report and the conditions and everything to deal with it. But if we have got different timings on this pitch to the other pitches, that is something of a concern. If this is going up till 10 o'clock at night when you've also got the lights on, that they're allowed to use this pitch. By the time people get off of the site, people are probably getting changed, the cars are leaving, and when you've got that size of car park, you could have cars still coming off the site at 10:30, 11 o'clock, which is even more disruption to residents. So if Councillor Martin was proposing that we go back to 9:30 in the evening, that is finished, then I would second that.
I will say that I'm quite concerned that the applicant has got two timing issues across the site, irrespective of whether one was yesterday or one's tomorrow. I'm quite concerned about that. Let's think for a moment. Any further speakers? No. Ben?
You could propose to amend that condition to what I've mistakenly actually put, so that it is 9:30. The committee has the ability to do that. Yep.
We certainly do. Councillor Ben Martin, do you want to make a proposal?
I would indeed propose that we adjust that condition to read as it reads in the papers, which I believe is where are we? 7 till 21:30 on Mondays to Fridays, 9 till 1800 on Saturdays, and 10 till 1800 on Sundays and bank holidays.
Councillor Hunt, you happy as the seconder?
Yep, happy to second.
Those in favour of that recommendation to change? That is unanimous, thank you. No. I'm sorry, we only allow speakers the one opportunity to speak. I'm sorry. Right, that has been proposed and seconded with that revision. Those in favour, please show.
Yeah, so hopping back to the acoustic fence and looking at what's in here, it says prior to the first use of the development, a 3 metre high acoustic fence shall be shown in the approved plans. Does it have a specific specification which is what I asked earlier, because that's quite generic. And I think we've discussed there's acoustic fences and acoustic fences, and what is their purpose. And I haven't really got to the bottom of what's its purpose and how does it fit in here, because it is a significant part of this, in particular that neighbour who is very close. It doesn't look it there, but when you look at Google Maps, you realise how close that neighbour is. And I think having a good understanding of the background noise and what that specification of acoustic fence will achieve makes a huge difference.
No, that's a very valid point. What we don't want to find is the day before this entity is opened up and games start, we've got 16 pallets stood up with respect. Some people would say that was an acoustic fence, but it's not. So at what point, Ben, does the acoustic fence get signed off? It can't be done now because we're going on the applicant's acoustic data.
No, so the condition just requires that the acoustic fence that is shown on the plans and elevations and documents to be installed prior to the use. We haven't asked for additional information of it. I will note, though, that in the noise impact assessment, it does set out in there some specifications of it, but it's not nailing it down to a specific material. So it says in there it could be of timber or metal construction, but should be closed bordered with no gaps and have a minimum surface mass of 10 kilograms per square metre. If the concern is that there's not enough detail at this stage, then we could amend the condition to require details to be submitted for approval, so that we have better specification of that acoustic barrier.
I think that's perfect. Now I'm going to come back very quickly. I was in mid-flight for taking a vote. Target date for this is 31st of July this year. Are we massively behind?
Yes, there were quite a lot of delays on this one. There was a lot of back and forth on the BNG. It took some time to establish the baseline in an accurate way. BNG, because it's quite a new thing, some applicants are struggling to get that right, and they're taking some time to get that information through to us. And then there's also delays in getting responses back from Kent County Council. So unfortunately, that was the cause of delays in this application.
Okay, I think it's then appropriate that we take out that bit about the acoustic fence and we bring that back to this committee with a full spec and design supported by the acoustic data.
Is that your proposal, Chairman?
It is.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Those in favour of that, you can comment if you wish to.
Thank you, Chairman. We wouldn't normally bring back this. Not really clear what you're suggesting, because we wouldn't bring discharge of condition applications to the committee. It would fall outside, I believe, the Constitution, but I could be corrected. The condition, I think that Ben was, the way he was suggesting to amend it was that prior to the installation of the fence, details of it should be submitted to and approved in writing by the council. It would be unusual for us to bring it back to the committee for that.
I think the only comment I've got on that is this council hasn't taken readings. We are literally basing that assumption of an acoustic fence on the applicant. Now, the applicant could say, yeah, that colour's brown. Well, actually, no, it's not, it's pink. You know? Sorry, go on then.
We wouldn't take readings if a discharge of condition application came back either. We'd be reliant on the evidence that's provided by the applicant, which would then be verified by our environmental health officers, consulted upon and commented. I'd be very surprised if our environmental health officers went out and took readings at that stage either.
Chair, if I could help you.
Please do, Councillor Bonney. Always looking for help.
As I did sort of stick my oar in and make it bring this up. I think this is a significant issue. Now, if they don't want the condition to come back to committee, then I would suggest this is deferred and for our environmental health, opine and understand the background readings, because we don't have an independent view. All we have is an applicant's desktop, and we have environmental colleagues, officers, come back to us with their assessment and some background noise readings and their recommendations for the specification of that acoustic fence.
Yeah, I'm just erring on the side of caution as to how this council proceeded at the Greyhound Stadium when it was used for dirt bikes. And that was extraordinarily lengthy and respectful to all the officers here tonight. Paul Gregory may have been here, but no one else was here. That could have cost this council an awful lot of money, hence why we went into great detail on it. Yeah, in a minute, Councillor MacDonald. Ben, what would be the implication, or would there be any significant implication to defer? Bearing in mind we should have decided this in July.
Well, before I answer that question, I'd also point towards the design access statement, which actually provides a bit more detail about the acoustic fence, which we could also add as a specification if that was desired. And that states that the new fencing is to be of an overlap boarding construction of minimum acoustic specification of 12 kilograms per square metre, which is more than what was recommended. The fencing would be 3 metres high, as suggested in the noise impact report. The acoustic boarding installed would be certified to ISO 9613, British Standards 1794-1 and 1793-1 and 2. So this application, again, it has been reviewed by Environmental Health. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in acoustics. But the expert who has reviewed it has found it acceptable. The recommendation is based on another site so in the noise impact assessment, they've modelled it based on a site that has 2 sports pitches next to each other. So they have made that recommendation based on that. So I fully trust what the environmental health officers are recommending to us. However, if the committee wished to defer this, I think the course of action would be to go back to the applicant and ask for detailed specifications of this acoustic barrier, maybe a detailed plan and elevations and materials, and to come back rather than to leave this to condition.
Yeah, totally. It's a good job one of us is an expert. That specification is a construction specification, not a performance specification. So that's where we would get dried, hung and quartered probably. I think it's reasonable that we go back to the applicant. Members? Peter MacDonald, you wanted to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was going to say that one of our number appears to have been quite experienced of installing barriers. We must, of course, make sure that it's effective. And I don't know, I haven't got a clue, frankly, but I can understand that some things are absorbed and then ping back, and if it's ping back, it goes to the main road, so that's hardly going to affect anybody. But I think maybe whoever looks at it technically could actually, I know it's a bit rude, but perhaps they could confer with Councillor Marchington.
Councillor Bonney.
Thanks, Chair. You know, as a committee, we have to look at what's in front of us. We haven't got the information. This has been going on for long enough. The applicants clearly changed things along the way, and this harks back to something I said earlier about another application. We should not have the gun held to our head, and we have a reasonable responsibility to get this right and get the specification. I'm no acoustic expert, that's for sure. I haven't got a clue, and I want the input of the relevant officer with the technical expertise to tell me that. And I think that's what this committee should do. It's got a choice tonight. It could refuse this, or we can ask for a deferment and get the correct information and correctly condition it. That's my position.
Thank you. Councillor Kavanagh.
I, like some of the rest of us, have no knowledge about acoustic fencing. I'd be quite happy for the officer to get the relevant information and make that decision, because it could come back here and I'd still be none the wiser. Thank you.
Oh, you'll be a lot wiser, Councillor Kavanagh. You certainly will. Anybody else? Okay. Councillor Bonney, do you want to recommend?
I'm going to propose a deferment for the officer to find out the requisite information on the acoustic fence and acoustic background noises and come back to committee.
Councillor Winklis.
Oh, I'm prepared to second that.
You're prepared to? Excellent. Right, we're now speaking to that proposal because it's already been proposed and seconded. So we're speaking to that. Anybody else want to speak to that? Okay. Just bear with me, please. Okay, so we're now voting on the proposal to defer. All those in favour to defer, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those against. 1, 2, 3. Abstentions. 1. That is then confirmed. We will defer that item for officers' comments back with the applicant. Thank you very much. Right. Agenda item 2.4. Councillor Braun, you sure you want to leave?
Yeah, I've starting at the past 15 minutes.
Cool. There we go. Agenda item 2.4. This is 23-504375-4. The former Travel Lodge, Canterbury Road in Dunkirk. Can we have an officer update, please?
Absolutely.
Councillor Paul.
Yeah. Evening, everybody. So we have an update in a tabled form in front of members this evening. So this is a tabled update to the update report to the original committee report. If everyone's still following. So reason being, we received further highway comments this week on the application. So that has been referred to the applicant, who has been provided with an opportunity to respond, as well as National Highways and KCC Highways, and that's what's included in the tabled update in front of members. But essentially, we're in the same position as officers as we were at the 22nd of May committee, where we recommended approval for this scheme. For info off members, resolved to grant planning permission, but as a result of some extra highway information that had come in and we weren't aware of at the time, we've now brought it back. So if you'd like a refresher in terms of what the proposal is actually for, then happy to give perhaps a short presentation.
Before you do that, Paul, I'm going to ask everybody, and perhaps give Councillor Braun a moment. Has everybody read the 3 documents that they've been sent and they're on the table? Or would anybody like a few minutes to read them? Right, that saves Councillor Braun's embarrassment. 5 minutes, so we'll stay, we will reconvene at 20:40, 20:09. Thank you. Okay, thank you, members. I take it everybody has now read that, which is always important. Right, Paul, do you want to give the overview as to why we're seeing it, please?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, the presentation.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So many of you will have likely seen this before, but for just a refresher. So it's an application for for the demolition of a hotel, which has actually now taken place. But there's a separate separate prior notification for that came in. So there's no sort of procedural problem with that. But the demolition of a hotel and the construction of a drive-through restaurant. It's to the south of the A2 Bolton bypass, on the which is the westbound side of that road. If this ever worked, bear with me. There we go. Yep. So site outlined in red. A2 running north of the site, and it's an existing roadside service area. So there's a petrol filling station there and some other sort of food and beverage outlets there as well. Aerial view of what we've just been looking at. So A2 running north of the site and the site outlined in red there. So existing layout that shows the travel lodge, which is no longer there, as just discussed, and to the west of that is an area of hard standing, which was the car park to the hotel. So here's the proposed layout. Flips it around essentially with the building on the western side and then the car park on the eastern side, and you come in here on the eastern side and out on the west. That's the same drawing with landscaping shown on it, obviously around the margins of the site. That was what the hotel looked like when it was there. This is what the drive-through stroke restaurant is proposed to look like. And as described in the report, obviously quite a sort of contemporary design. Layout of the restaurant. And just some site photographs. This is the petrol filling station, which sits in, when you look in, the A2's behind where this photograph's taken. So the petrol filling station sits in front of it, and the site's to the rear of it, which I'll show you in a bit more detail shortly. Similar photo there. But then you get into the site here. Hard standing for some of it, and sort of unmanaged vegetation for other parts of the site, and as you can see there's more of the hard standing, and some more of it. So yeah, as discussed at the start of the item, the recommendations for approval as it was previously when it was brought to committee. Thank you.
I just need to check something, members. Sorry, members, we're just checking. I thought that because I'd called a 5-minute time to read, that would give Councillor Braun the time, but apparently it doesn't, because I'd already announced the item. So in line with the Constitution, unfortunately, Councillor Braun, you won't be able to vote. Okay? We're clear. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Paul, for the update. We have some speakers. Can I first invite Councillor Jeff Tutt from Dunkirk Parish Council? Evening, Mr. Tutt, Councillor Tutt. How are you? Yeah, good, thank you. You know the routine. As soon as you're comfortable, your time will begin.
Good evening, Chairman, members and officers. Can I just start with a plea to alter a condition? Councillor Henderson sat here for many, many years and was given assurances over the years all conditions would contain the phrase native species in planting schemes. Could you ensure that that is added if you were minded to approve this? One of DPC's material consideration was lorries parking on the on-off strips. This application now returns to the committee 2 years after that. Kent Police and SPC are still unable to rectify the parking that continue to make the access more problematic and dangerous, as we previously pointed out. National Highways appear to consider it a problem to the applicant. The applicant dismisses these figures from the tabled paper with further comments saying if a vehicle was heading eastbound and diverted to Harbour Down and then onto the existing site, it would travel extra 6.98 kilometres a round trip. It's highly unlikely that motorists would do this. Well, we feel that a lot would. And in fact, a borough councillor has said to me that they would travel from Faversham at this 6.98 kilometres and back just to purchase a McDonald's. That is a sad fact. The new report that you've seen also shows that many more people would do this. People travelling eastbound could go to Canterbury and out to Surrey. That's the pull of McDonald's. The officer says that in summary, based on the updated consulting comments, it is not considered that driver behaviour as suggested by the third-party highway review is likely to occur. Well, I'm sorry, but McDonald's put themselves there because people want to buy them. Google tells us people travel to McDonald's for several reasons, including convenience, consistency, affordability, and, to be honest, just because they want a McDonald's because hunger strikes. People will travel the extra mileage. The applicant also states that the car parking is only slightly below the advisory standards. Surely this can't be right, can it? Why do we put a limit or a specification and then say it's only just below it so we can allow it? Furthermore, you may not know that there's been a lot of issues with sewage in Dunkirk and Bolton. We've got 19 sewage tankers working 24/7 to remove sewage from the two villages. And this is only, right now, it's lasted for 8 weeks. And I can assure you it's only going to get worse. I implore you to look at the figures regarding the... Thank you. I'll leave it there, Chair. You sure? Well, just to say, please look at all the figures from the people coming and going. That report shows you that it's going to be 90-odd% higher than the applicant suggests. And to say that it's unlikely, well, that's just, unlikely. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I call, please, Sarah Mokes, please? Good evening. Once you're comfy on the chair, the mic is already live, so as soon as you start, you're away.
Thank you very much, committee. Last time, some members got a bit muddled by talk of a previous planning application for a drive-through coffee shop. To be clear, there is already a drive-through Costa Coffee in operation. Having a McDonald's as well is complete overkill on this small, poorly accessed site. Drive-through restaurants are identified as a main town centre use. This isn't even an out-of-centre site, but out in the sticks, accessible only by car. It has since emerged that the company is also eyeing up a site in Faversham, adjacent to Aldi, a far more appropriate location. This surely invalidates its sequential test. Let's put to bed the officer's ludicrous assertion that a McDonald's drive-through will boost economic growth in the rural area. This is a fast food multinational that will take business away from local eateries. The jobs it provides are low-skilled, minimum-wage muck jobs with a generous side order of muck harassment. For the company to claim their 24-hour drive-through will only attract passing traffic is wholly disingenuous. It is clearly aimed at the Faversham market, something they've had designs on for years. The typical clientele would think nothing of getting in the car and making a 20-kilometre round trip to procure a Happy Meal any hour of the day or in particular night. Never mind their dubious tricks data, any regular user of this congested, frequently gridlocked stretch of the A2 between Harbledown and Brenley Corner could tell you that adding a McDonald's drive-through whose round-the-blocks queues paralyse many a retail park at rush hour is a bad idea. All told, the proposal will have an unacceptable impact on the safety and operational efficiency of the SRN. It is a fact that the Dunkirk Junction and the off-slip from gate services is so configured that traffic rejoining the A2 will be in the direct path of vehicles turning off. Any intensification of use could, therefore, have adverse highway safety impacts. There is also the risk of traffic backing up along the slip road and affecting the SRN. If this occurs at a time when parked up HGVs are also present, it will completely choke off access to the rest of the services area. The issue with lorry parking, as you've heard, on the slip is long-standing. Previously, Highways asked that accommodation for HGVs should be made within the site. This should be made a planning condition in line with MPPF paragraph 114. It is arguably necessary to make the proposal acceptable. And may I just add that McDonald's are well known for being magnets for antisocial behaviour, and it's completely unacceptable that Kent Police were not consulted this time round. For this reason, I'd say the application should be deferred. And it would enable the company to hold a proper public consultation, something which seems to be standard practice for their other developments, but not here.
Thank you, Mrs. Mokes.
Thanks.
Can I call Mr. Andy Tobin, please? Good evening, Andy. When you're sitting comfortably, your time will begin. You'll have 3 minutes and then the 30-second buzzer to let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members. My name is Andy Tobin and I'm speaking on behalf of McDonald's. This application is returning to committee for procedural reasons due to a late objection before the committee in May this year, where members ultimately voted to approve the scheme. Additional clarification has been provided where necessary to address the concerns raised by a third party in relation to highways and air quality. We are pleased to see that National Highways, Kent County Council Highways and the environmental health officers all retain their support for the scheme and have no objection. There are no changes to the scheme previously considered and previously supported in May. The site used to contain a hotel and car parking. The hotel has since been demolished and the wider site is now closed and overgrown, offering no social or economic benefit to the local community. A drive-through coffee shop was approved on the site in 2020. When compared to the previously approved scheme, our proposal seeks to provide enhanced landscape and ecological benefits. We have engaged with Kent County Council to further enhance our landscape and ecological mitigation to help provide significant buffers around the built form on the site. If approved, the application will help redevelop a brownfield site, enhancing the existing service area, creating over 100 new jobs across a range of full and part-time roles. McDonald's are committed to maintaining a clean environment, and the team at this proposed restaurant will conduct 3 daily litter patrols covering a 150-metre radius, collecting all litter, not just McDonald's packaging. McDonald's franchisees go further, organising local events such as in Sittingbourne, staff have helped a local school launch an anti-litter campaign to encourage students to dispose of litter properly. In summary, we believe this application will deliver significant benefits, supporting the local economy and provide additional amenities for users along the A2. We hope the committee is able to support our application this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. In line with other applications, I shall move the officer recommendation to approve. Is that seconded? It is seconded, Councillor Ben Martin. Thank you. Right, I have a request to speak from Councillor Alistair Gould.
Thank you, Chairman. Is this a 3-minute limit, or am I able to speak as a ward member?
You're taking up your time. Carry on.
Oh. Right. First of all, the on the traffic note, the tabled report today says the typical drive time to a McDonald's restaurant is 8 minutes. Well, if you look on Google Maps for the 8 minute radius rather than the kilometre radius, because I think that's key here, that actually includes half of Canterbury. So I think the basis on which they've done their traffic modelling, where they're looking at distance rather than time, is flawed, because that's what counts for people, and it'll be actually easier for a large number of people in the southern and western half of Canterbury to get to this restaurant than it would be to get to Surrey. So I think that would be, and given the key point here is about traffic, that actually if you've cut out basically a half of Canterbury from your traffic modelling, because you've just did the 5 kilometre thing, which just clips inside Canterbury or outside Canterbury, you've missed one of the points. Secondly, the litter, 150 metre radius. Well, if you're in your car, you do that in about 12 seconds. So the litter doesn't get deposited at the site, it gets deposited in the highways and byways around where my ward is. And you can see that if you look at if you're pedalling along and you can actually see the litter at the edge, it's stuff from fast food restaurants provides the majority of that. So 150 metre litter pick is completely ineffective. And in fact, also to litter pick on the slip road, you actually have to close it because of safety considerations. This is a classic for the externalisation of their waste clearance and dumping it on others, rather than actually holding on to the waste that they generate. Climate change is now a material consideration in the NPPF, and whatever the effects of traffic generation in terms of congestion and safety, that also needs to be taken into account. We are encouraging people to drive at 70 miles an hour for a large chunk of this distance, which will have a significant climate impact, not to mention the effect of the beef. But I won't go too much into that one. There's also a social objective to support healthy communities as part of the NPPF, and this is a very crucial point, that obesity is fueled by the types of fast foods that is present from these restaurants. The Lancet report has recognised the dangers of this industrially produced edible substances that were linked to harm in every major organ. And I see it in my surgery. The obesity rates have gone up enormously, and all the harm that goes along with it. I think on that grounds alone, there's a planning consideration in terms of the harm to public health. Finally, on air quality, I know the air quality, man-made point, the air quality of queuing traffic is a very point-specific problem. The cars that are queuing in are inhaling the exhaust of the car in front of them, because people don't tend to turn their cars off. So saying that you can't have an air quality measurement thing actually, again, misses the point. The air quality is very point-specific, and it will be to the users of the restaurant and also the people who are serving their customers. So I think there are many, many reasons why this should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. I think before we progress, it may be the viewpoint of a member of the public that our professional planning team make ludicrous comments. I don't believe that is supported by any member of this committee. Just to make that clear. Councillor Braun, did you want to ask a question?
No, I wanted to speak as a visiting member, if that was possible. Where does the Constitution sit on that?
You can speak, but you're not allowed to vote.
Yeah, that's okay. Fine. I just wanted to say, I want to call out, frankly...
Yeah, carry on then,
yeah. Sorry, Chairman. I want to call out disgraceful behaviour by a speaker in quoting low-skill, minimum wage jobs as if there is something wrong with them. She seemed disgusted by talking about minimum wage jobs. And frankly, I'd encourage members to just think about the complete snobbery that we've seen in this room tonight. And I'd even go as far as saying...
Be careful, Councillor Braun,
I
please.
will. I know that now, from my consideration, that direction to me is all the same. Faversham, the outskirts, I've not really got an idea. But I know we've got a duchy development in that direction. I didn't realise they were here with us tonight. And, being able to have those views on minimum wage, low-skill jobs that McDonald's would create. Thank you for letting me speak, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Braun. Let's try and keep it to planning matters, but we get your sentiment. I've got 3 hands. I've got Councillor Kavanagh. Yeah, Councillor Kavanagh first.
Thank you, Chair. Don't make me laugh. I was here before when we approved it. Now, to me, I see no difference. Highways still say there isn't a problem. That, to me, is paramount. Now, I won't go quite as far as Councillor Braun, but I know McDonald's does a lot of things in the community, is very good for young people, and it's quite offensive to hear all the negative stuff. It shouldn't be about McDonald's. It should be, should we have this drive-through restaurant there or not? So my view as it stands at the moment is I've heard nothing to change my mind from my decision last time. Thank you.
Councillor Winklis.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to add I was at the planning meeting when I actually voted in favour of this last time. I remember my words were basically that I think it's mentioned as a brownfield site. It's no use to anybody. And the fact it was a hotel, there was traffic entering the road when it was a hotel, so I don't really, in my view, see that endangers anybody's life coming out of there. So nothing's changed my view. I think to build a McDonald's there and also create some improvement to the site. So I think go on the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winklis. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Similar to that, I remember this well when this came to committee. Unfortunately, it's what people want. They want to go to Faversham and play football on a plastic football pitch, jump in their car and drive down and get a burger without getting out the car. That is what people want. This is coming forward because of that. The only thing we're looking at tonight is the traffic issues that were raised at that time. And as has been said, KCC and all the other specialists have said that there is no issue. It's coming here just because at that point we've looked at it before. And I agree with officer's recommendation.
Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, I got distracted in my mind then. Something has changed. Well, quite a few things have changed since we voted on it last. One, there was an assessment by National Landscapes of the Blean, of which they highlighted the Blean as grade A to bring it into the National Landscapes. So that's quite a considerable change from when we last voted on it. In other words, they thought it was such an important landscape that it was worth grading. And we hope, that will move forward and be accepted. And a McDonald's in the middle of it is not a particularly good thing. And under material considerations around climate change, with these extra trips, which clearly there will be, and I agree with Councillor Gould that I highlighted at the time, that people will trip all the way from Canterbury in rotation and back again, which is not acceptable. So that's what I feel.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bonney and then Councillor Marchington.
Cheers, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't present previously, so this is all new to me. Just to clarify, with the officers, hours of operation, I can see construction hours in there. Is this a 24/7 operation? I just want to clarify. 365 days a year, including Christmas Day.
I will, just for the sake of absolute clarity in my mind,
check the conditions.
Yeah, but I think so.
It doesn't. I can't see it.
No.
So.
I think we'll need to go back and check the original
I've got it's right. I've got.
It's on there, is it?
I've got the conditions. No, I'm nearly at the bottom. Sorry.
I can see construction hours.
Yeah, no, it's uncontrolled. So 24 hours a day is a possibility. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of things. Do you want me to pick them up now, or do you want me to wait?
No, you've got the mic, so...
All right, then. You know, I was trying to be tame before and just stick to my questions. Right. So I do know this stretch really well. I drive past it every day, and I can totally understand where people are coming from around how this piece of highways infrastructure is used. This obviously has a really important landscape area, and that's why I wanted to clarify hours of operation. It means there's no let up for the wildlife around it if it's operating 24/7. One of the things that isn't factored in here but is prevalent with the use of a McDonald's is the use of couriers constantly. So you may not get necessarily all the footfall through cars visiting or HGVs, but is the constant churn of all the various food courier companies. And I do think people will drive a long way. My concerns, I think, you know, if we are to approve this, I would like to see, and I'm happy to propose, that it should be native species. Given the landscape sensitivities, it's an absolute given that in my mind, so I'm happy to propose that. As a, shall I go through these one at a time, or do you want me to?
How many have you got?
Well, the other one is around lighting and hours of operation, and I do think there is something to be said here around the hours of operation, given its sensitive nature of the landscape. I can understand why they'd want to be 24/7 next to a strategic road network, but equally, when you're surrounded by this level of landscaping, I think you need to give the wildlife a break, quite frankly. And I do think there should be on-site HGV parking. I am concerned that if we end up with HGV parking in places off-site or near slip roads, it's really dangerous because of the way the hill is there and the way the traffic backs up. I mean, every morning I'm, driving down there and you see it backed up on the A2. It is... I actually don't like even driving into that petrol station because of the short run into it and the short run to get out of it into those live lanes. And when you cease traffic, I've seen some fairly horrendous accidents along there. So highways, to say there's not a problem, there absolutely is. Now, one of the councillors earlier said, well, we can't go against the highway authorities. If you have a safety concern, you can. You have to justify it. They won't be there to back you, but we can hire a transport consultant to back us if we can evidence that. I think I would say at least once a week there's an accident along there somewhere. So the slip roads on and off is an issue for me. But the conditions certainly need to be improved, and certainly the ones around lighting. Now, there is one about a delegation of lighting to the officers here. I think we need that somehow enhanced, and I'd look to the officer to help us here with some wording, is the sensitivity of the site to the landscape and to the wildlife, that lighting condition is really tightened up so that we don't get, massive LEDs, strobe lighting, whatever. And the design of the building is the other issue for me. It looks like an industrial shed. It doesn't sit well in that landscape with a big yellow M on it. It's actually quite a tucked away site. If you look at where the hotel is next to it and the petrol station forecourt, it hasn't got a huge amount of visibility. And actually, if you go to places like France, they have some really quite nice modern-looking buildings, but set well into the landscape. I don't think this sits well in terms of design. But anyway, right, so I'll propose a change first off on the condition on having HGVs parking on site, and that there should be a condition limiting the hours of operation. But I'd like the officer to come back on that.
Okay.
before I set those hours.
Yeah, yeah,
And to hear others' comments on
I think
that.
your commentary about species, I believe,
Native species, I'm
was
happy to
already
propose that.
I think that's already taken up in
Do you
one
want
of
to
the
second that?
policies. No, I don't think we need to. I think it's already there. It's already there in the background policies.
Well, the landscaping's been, it's a compliance condition.
Does it specifically set out native species?
To be honest, I don't know whether the landscape scheme is all native species without going back and looking.
Right.
I think we'd want to condition that, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to propose that.
I believe
native-
historically,
Well, I mean, it's something that we tend to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
native species was already in
Absolutely,
there.
but on the basis that this isn't saying give us a landscaping scheme.
No.
This is saying you've given us a landscaping scheme and you've got to do it. So I suppose one way of doing that is I suppose we could have delegation to check that, and if it's native, leave it, and if it's not, then
insist it is.
we could reword the condition requiring a landscaping scheme that is native. We could do that.
Yeah,
Okay, yep.
I'm happy to propose that.
What about the parking?
Yeah, parking I would steer very much clear of. We've consulted, well, National Highways is responsible for obviously that part of the road network, that part of the road network which is strategic, and they haven't identified that this site needs to basically deal with that issue.
Where would, if a lorry driver decided he wanted a McDonald's, which is highly likely, where are they going to park?
I don't know the answer
And
to
I
that question.
don't think in all good conscience that we can warrant a takeaway restaurant or something like this alongside the strategic network without having some sort of provision for HGVs to pull over and order and take a break.
Yeah, I mean, my response, if it's okay.
Please.
Sorry, my response to that would be that National Highways are well aware of this being next to the strategic road network and have assessed the scheme sort of multiple times now, and have every time come back and said they don't have an objection subject to the condition that they've recommended.
I think we'd have trouble if we were going to push HGV parking.
Well, what happens then? Do we have an HGV come in and just wipe out 5 spaces? We've already got a less than, not average parking, but it's slightly below par, shall we say? Or are we going to ask them to park in the petrol station? Or possibly in the hotel?
It's unusual, but yes, I'm being lenient tonight.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, at the moment, even with the attractions that there are of the services, there are regularly HGVs parked all the way along the slip, and making it even more dangerous for people leaving because they can't see the A2 behind them. And so to have an extra pull for HGV drivers, I think would be detrimental. They are already causing a problem, both with safety issues and also with littering as well. And as I say, the littering, we've been told several times, can't be cleared because they have to close the slip road for it to be safe to do this. So this adds to the problem.
Let's get this littering one nailed. Those of us that drive on the roads drive past a variety of fast food restaurants. It doesn't matter which one it is, there's always litter half a mile up the road. Wherever you go, it's inherent of the people that use those establishments. They seem to have this automatic drop the window and throw it out. I was never taught that when I took my driving test. I don't know why it's suddenly come in. So I think we just need to deal with that. It's a national problem. It's not just Swale. I accept the HGV issue, and again, I would say it's probably the same for every fast food restaurant along an A road or a B road or wherever else. There is going to be an issue with HGV parking wherever it is. I don't think we can, based on what Paul has said, I don't think we can put a directive in there to make sure there is HGV parking. I don't believe we can do that. I'm concerned about your lighting one, Councillor Bonney. What did you want to say about that? Because again, there is a directive from this council to say it's got to be low energy lighting, downward facing, etc., to minimise light pollution.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with the hours of operation, to be honest. But some of it is around making sure it's appropriate for the natural surroundings that's to it. So, you know, you can have McDonald's lighting in Sittingbourne Town Centre. I would hope is not what is approved for this site, but we haven't got anything that says that. We need something that is sensitive to that particular location, and obviously if it's operating 24/7 there is no let up. So we know there's bats, we know there's all the other wildlife, and it is really distracting for that wildlife to have that 24/7 operation with no let up.
Paul, what have we got on lighting?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. So condition 5. So they can't install any lighting other than that which has been basically submitted to us and assessed already. And part of that assessment is related to ecology. So there's been an assessment done on the lighting, and KCC Ecology have also provided comments on the application. So I think we've assessed it appropriately and come to the view that what they've provided is okay, but they can't do anything else.
So my only comment is that KCC Ecology never visits site. We don't have that contract with them. They don't ever come to the ground and see what's going on. So I have a little bit of scepticism there.
Councillor Marchington.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A couple of points to raise. As I've spoken before, I've been a construction engineer all over the country for many, 47 years, to be honest. And so we're always looking for new sites, always trying to find a new job. Did a lot of work for the environment agency, but you're always looking for someone who wants a crane and someone who wants a river gate. You know, you always had to hunt a job, and that was my main bit. Now, when we were going to a new site, picking up at a McDonald's was very, very useful to us because we didn't have to drive into a town. I had to meet the client, their managers, their workers, my men and other contractors who were going to be subbing off of me on the site, and we found we could put 30 people in there sometimes in one of theirs, just on one meeting. And that was very, very useful because we weren't getting in anybody's town, and it became a kind of meeting point for when you met other people involved with the sites, and often our start point, because we were often driving anywhere between 20 and 90 miles to a site, and so you're looking for somewhere to have a quick bite, and you're going to go to somewhere that's not near a shop, you know. So I've got to speak fairly highly of them in that respect. They were useful to me.
Did you want to adjust your declaration of interest?
Yeah, I might have to. I was going to ask that question.
Okay.
But when you're talking about the interference with people and bits and pieces, most of the McDonald's they're always in like a very similar layout. They're nearly always in a semi-rural situation. I know that, but if you look at the layout, they're all very, very similar. It's all designed for a throughput because most people are throughput, and then you can stop there to eat if you wish to. And Bobbin is a perfect example of McDonald's. It's in an area where it's tight to get in. It deters lorries, and you can't deter lorries better than 2 or 3 or 4 90-degree tight corners. And if you look at Bobbin, and that's very similar layout to most of them. And so I'll leave it there. If that's got to be a declaration of interest, I'll take the advice. Thank you.
I'm happy to take you on board as a professional fast food eater, Councillor Marchington. You seem to know the ins and outs of it quite well. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate, but also with key points, that when, again, people said nothing's changed since May, it has. It's something that everyone wasn't part of, but the rapid review that was carried out by National Landscapes really highlighted the importance of the Blean. And so we're aware of that now. So it would undermine LNRS. The SSSI, it meant that when it was put forward, none of the main NGOs were consulted. So the RSPB, the Kent Wildlife Trust, but they've clearly highlighted now for themselves that this particular part, which is the Blean and connecting the Blean, is of great importance. And so I think we've got a strong case for effects on that environment. As Councillor Bonney pointed out, it's right in the middle of ancient woodland. 3 sides of it are ancient woodland. So again, I think it has changed. We've got that information now. It's been graded A, not B or C, so it's a priority landscape. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you very much.
Was the officer going to come back on hours? And were there any recommendations if there were a shorter variety?
My view is that we haven't got any evidence to say that 24 hours isn't appropriate here.
I can't find any operation further down the A2 that is 24 hours all the way to Dover. And they're not even next to ancient woodland. Why in this circumstance would you allow 24/7, 7 days a week, when it's surrounded by 3 sides ancient woodland, when you've got other operators further down the A2 that all shut at 10?
I'd say that
That's the application.
My response is the consultees have commented on the basis of it being 24 hours and haven't objected.
Any more questions? That has been proposed and seconded. Those in favour of the recommendation to approve, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any abstentions? 2. That is therefore carried and approved as the officer recommended.
The change to the landscaping condition?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Right, we now go back
You can just override.
to item
That will do.
2.2. Again, has everybody read the tabled update before we kick off? Good. So, this is item 25-501335, hybrid land at Lady Dane Farm, Love Lane in Faversham. Can we have the officer update, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
This application is submitted under Section 73 of the Act for amendments to the extent planning permission. There was a tabled update that was circulated on Wednesday evening. This included further minor changes to the wording of conditions 45 and 46 to clarify that the relevant details have already been approved. I have a very brief presentation. If you'd like to.
Let's have the presentation, please.
So, the amendments sought to the application, sorry, that's the table update for your information, but it's all on that page that was circulated. The amendments sought in the application are to the approved drawings to allow for the relocation of the pumping station, updates to drainage basins, relocation of the substation, and provision of 2 additional parking spaces. This slide shows the approved layout. And this slide shows the proposed layout highlighting the amendments. The application is recommended for approval as set out within the committee report.
Thank you very much. So in line with the officer recommendation, I shall propose that. Is that seconded, Councillor Braun? Thank you very much. Do we have any ward members or visiting members that wish to speak? No, we don't. Members, any comments, any questions? That has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against? Those abstaining? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is therefore carried in line with the recommendation to approve. Right. We now move to item 4.1. Don't worry, we haven't started yet. This is item number 24-503658-full. Central Park Stadium, Church Road in Sittingbourne, Kent, Mike Echo 10, 3 Sierra Bravo. Can we have officer update, and if there is any presentation, please?
Sorry, just having some IT struggles. There we go. No update for this one, thank you. So, report as it is. Only reason this is here is because it's on council-owned land, and also the council is the applicant for this one. But it's probably a site that's familiar to most people. It's Central Park Stadium in Sittingbourne, and it is simply for a new access into the site. So, site location plan. Site is the small bit outlined in red near to Church Road, and the blue just demonstrates what the rest of the council's land ownership is there. Aerial view showing the same thing of what we've just been looking at. Here's a general arrangement access plan showing the visibility displays and essentially the geometry of the access going into the site. It's to the north of the existing access, which I'll show you in the photograph shortly. Here's a more sort of jazzed up version of what we've just looked at, which shows the curbs and the surface in there, which would obviously be a continuation of what's already there along Church Road once it's installed. And photographs. This is approximately where the access is going into the site. There's one obviously shown at an angle, one shown from the other side of Church Road there on the right hand side. Existing main access into the facility, and this is just taken from inside the car park looking backwards to where those first photos were taken. So the photo on the left is where the access would come in. On the photo on the right is the car park looking northwards, and the photo there is the car park looking south. Recommendation is for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Being consistent, I shall move the officer recommendation to approve. That is seconded. Councillor Braun, thank you very much. I see no hands. That has been proposed and seconded. All in favour of the proposal, please show. I better count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 in favour. Those against? None. No abstentions. That is therefore approved. Thank you very much. Right, now the exciting part of the evening. Part 5s. Ian, do you want to run through each of these? If anybody wants to comment, as is usual, as soon as you hear the number, holler.
Thank you, Chairman. 5.1 in Baldon, light industrial unit, and its conversion to a dwelling. Refused on the grounds of its location, which is distant from many things and on a very narrow lane.
Good result, and I think again members keep hold of the documented paperwork on these. It's very useful. It's good commentary on that one. Ian?
Castard Farm, there was an issue with harm to heritage assets, particularly non-designated heritage asset. There was an issue related to the limited access to shops and services because of its location, which, although there's development such as an Aldi potentially coming, Lidl, the inspector found that wasn't coming imminently necessarily, and they say couldn't rely upon it, and so the site was distant from everything needed for day-to-day living. It's in a countryside gap and in the countryside, and so refused for quite strong reasons.
No comments. The only thing I would say is they touch on it, but it could potentially go from 3 cars to 18. Next one.
Old application for certificate of lawfulness, which was allowed at appeal. We'd refused it on the grounds that the officers weren't entirely convinced that it was used for purposes that fell within the scope of permitted development rights, but the inspector took it on the face value and was happy that it was.
Sad. 5-4. Got flurry of hands now. And Tony, you're right.
So this was, you'll councillors remember this, some councillors went to the site visit. It was recommended for approval by officers. It was refused by the planning committee. It broke down into sort of 5 issues spread across 5 reasons for refusal, one being the location, relative to the settlement boundaries, being development in the countryside and having a harmful visual impact on the countryside, the setting of the listed building which development would surround, and the access. There was a 5th, which best and most versatile agricultural land, lots of that. The inspector weighed it all up, found harm in some respects, particularly the impact on the heritage asset, found the proposal entirely acceptable in highways terms and according with all the relevant national policies. That was a hard case to make, I have to say, that it wasn't. And overall weighed the balance and found that it was acceptable, particularly having regard to the need for employment land.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kavanagh, and then Councillor Winkles.
Yeah, I noticed on the appeal around employment land needed, that argument sort of fell foul. But one of the key things I'd like to point out, we did do it did go to appeal, but costs were refused. So it's worth bearing in mind when we think we disagree with something, we don't want it to happen, and we're scared of an appeal. It's worth bearing that in mind. But I feel one of the key things for me, again, went back down to the national landscapes and what bodies are consulted. And a lot of bodies aren't consulted because it wasn't within the NL or close enough to. But now, again, they've graded that particular area for Brogdale as a high priority zone. And it's a shame that it's now happened, and the development's going to occur in it. But hey-ho. Thanks.
I remember that day very well. It was very muddy. I remember muddy boots. Not my muddy boots. It's disappointing. I mean, we almost lost at least one councillor on the road while we were talking. The access is going to be right over the brow of the hill. How that's not deemed dangerous, I do not understand. However, what it's highlighted is the great weight of employment land and how desperate it is we get this local plan agreed. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good comment, Councillor Kavanagh. I was disappointed, hopping out of that for a moment, at the last highways highways training we had. I'm always quite consistent with the word dangerous, and when we're talking highways and the word dangerous has a factual reason behind it, and we don't want to go there because it's a number of deaths, then it's dangerous. So we need to be careful. And lastly, Councillor Winkles.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say I'm very disappointed that basically the inspector didn't agree with the bad visibility of this access road, right on the brow of that hill. Very dangerous. Actually, Councillor Kavanagh said I almost got knocked over. That's whatever. But that's going to be very dangerous. There's going to be accidents coming up, vehicles coming out of that has been passed. There's a massive collision waiting to happen there. So I'm very disappointed that he didn't listen on that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winkles. And let's hope there aren't horrible accidents there. Let's hope. Anybody else? No. 5-5, Spade Lane.
This appeal almost fell away because it related to a breach of condition of a temporary planning permission that had expired by the time the inspectorate had considered it. So there wasn't a lot to take from that one.
5-6.
This was converting a commercial building into flats. The reason for refusal related to the living conditions for future occupiers, particularly reliant on access that was a bit contrived and passing someone's bedroom and bedrooms with an outlook of underneath a stairwell. It was refused by officers on lack of insufficient living conditions, and that was supported by the inspector.
5-7. Fantastic result, I would say.
Was an application for prior approval where the works had already occurred.
Yeah.
So quite an easy refusal, really.
I think it's worth saying again that even when a building works has started, it's not reasonable to say we're going to refuse it just because you've started before you got an application approved. Yeah, not grounds typically. 5-8, which I'd say is another fantastic result.
I should stress, on that 5.7, it was an application for prior approval, which means they have to seek approval prior, and they hadn't. 5-8, same site, dwellings, countryside location. Inspector found it was urbanising. There was a fallback of another permission on the site, but the inspector found that this was more harmful, and so the fallback wasn't grounds to find this acceptable.
No, we're done. Officers, thank you very much indeed. Kelly, thank you very much. Members, thank you for your time. Some good engagement this evening on some quite exciting applications. I hope we've done them justice. Have a great remainder of your evening. Drive safe and see you all next week at full council. I'll close the meeting at 21:37.